Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Here I am in lovely, sunny Hollywood, California. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm in my home studio in Nova Scotia. But, it's hot as Hollywood. I'm going to tell you today, the temperature is it's boiling. It's boiling. It's quite literally boiling. It's above 90 degrees. I guess it must be 93, 94 degrees out. There's not a cloud in the sky, and it's just boiling out. But I got an air conditioner here. I got to turn it off to do the show because it makes so much noise. It rattles away. Anyway, but I'm trying to stay cool this afternoon until the sun goes down because it's so hot. They got heat warnings out there, and we're not used to this. I mean, and this is moist heat too. It's kind of heat that makes you sweat a lot. But some people, they're used to it. They're used to 99 degrees, 100 degrees, nothing for them. But for me, oh man, I'll tell you. Anyway, let me get to my point. Ebola. It's now made its way to a huge transit city, a city where people go in every different direction. They even got an international airport. It's a city called Goma. Now, I know you never heard of Goma before, but some people say there's 1 million people there, and some people say there's 2 million people there. Just don't know for sure. It's probably like 1.5 million people. They've got their second case. Second person's died in Goma from Ebola. This is very, very bad because it's a densely populated city. The houses are very close together, practically touching one another, and each house is just loaded with families, all kinds of people in each house. They're not rich like here in America. There might be one person living in a house, and a big luxury house, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and just one person living in it. It's not like that in Africa. In Africa, the house is a quarter the size, and it'll have like 2 families in it, with like 30 people living in one house. You know what I mean? They got intensely. The population is they utilize their space under a roof a lot more than we do. We let space under roof go to waste. Our houses are like mansions, and there's nobody in a lot of rooms. We'll have like guest bedrooms. Some people have 2, 3 guest bedrooms in their home, and they're never used. They just go in there once a month to dust, and then they shut the door behind it, and it just stays that way. That's the way we are over here in the West. We have luxury, and we don't realize what luxury we live in. Anyway, Goma is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They're frightened it's going to start to spread to other countries or nearby. Very disastrous situation. Now, we're moving into a disastrous period in time. War. Taiwan. China. The Strait of Taiwan. America's sailing through there. America's buying arms, and they're not buying them. Taiwan's buying arms from America. China is outrageously mad about it. They're very upset about Taiwan right now. More upset than they are about anything. There's 2 situations in China that they're very upset about. One's what's going on over in Hong Kong, and the other is what's happening in Taiwan. And they said, yes, we will go to war over Taiwan. And they mean it. They mean business. Now, Iran is another hot spot in the world right now. Huge hot spot. You all know what's going on over in Iran. Maximum pressure campaign on Iran. They're cutting off everything to Iran. In Iran now is at the point where they're losing it. They're losing it. And they swarmed around the British tanker with these fast motorboats, and what they do is they actually create a wake as waves, and it shakes the boat that they're swarming around. And this is their tactic. It's called asymmetric warfare. They have thousands of these little high-powered boats that go really fast, where they have a machine gun mounted on the boat. And they said to the British commander, they said, hey, back off. They basically said, don't risk your lives. to the British. Well, you know, those British soldiers that were there on board that ship that were told that by Iran, they didn't have orders yet. And this is why Iran got away with it. Iran got away with it because they hadn't been really structured as to what to do yet. Now, they're sailing through there, the same British ships, and they are protecting, guiding ships through, but they're under orders now. You know? And a few vocal threats, is not going to affect the British. Think back. Go back to the American Revolutionary War. The British were in that war and they were marching. Right? American soldiers were running through the woods, sniping the British soldiers. And the British soldiers were so they were so obedient to command, they were told to stay in formation while they were walking down the road. The sniper would run through the woods, shoot one. The others would continue to march. He'd run a bit farther down the woods and he'd snipe another one. And they'd continue to march. The British, they would not break formation. They were so well trained in their orders. And they are the same today. Now that they have orders, they know what to do. Don't mess with them. You don't mess with the British. I'm going to tell you, it's like fighting with a honey badger. There might be a small country, but don't underestimate them. Do not underestimate the British. I'm going to tell you that. Winston Churchill. Going back to Winston Churchill. This is the kind of fight the British have in them. Don't mess with them. Because once you get them wild, you're in for a hard time. They don't quit. They just keep coming. And I'm going to tell you what, they fight like a honey badger. Don't mess with them. So Iran, you know, they might think, hey, you know what, we can do this and we can do that. And, you know, Iran right now, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. This maximum pressure campaign is pushing them toward war. And, you know, I'm going to tell you, this whole thing could just erupt into something that could cause the oil price to go unbelievably high, and that would just blow the economy all to pieces. But the economy's ready to blow anyway. We got Deutsche Bank. Oh my gosh. You know what? I could go through the situations. One of the big ones is the Brexit coming up with Boris Johnson. The trade war. The slowing Chinese economy. It just seems like all of these problems are converging. We're lucky to get out with our skins. I'm telling you straight. All these converging problems. If the United States does not solve this trade war, and I mean soon, we could be in for a market crash. Not a correction, a market crash. They are lowering interest rates as fast as they can, trying to front run this and trying to get ahead of it, but they're already behind the curve. The whole global situation is in a point where the whole thing could just basically disintegrate on us. And then what happens with the Ebola? If the world goes into chaos and we cannot manage Ebola, Ebola will manage us. So if all of these other crisis situations cause a chaotic world, then we won't have the organization skills to stop this disease. This disease does not care. Does not care. Does not care, guys. It doesn't care if you're not ready for it, if you're not organized for it. It doesn't care. It is infectious. It's not airborne. At least not yet. It probably won't become airborne. Probably will not become airborne. But just because it's not airborne does not mean that it's not infectious. It's extremely infectious. Anything a person touches, and you touch it, and you get your hands around your mouth or anything, you can come down with this sucker, and it's bad. It starts with flu-like symptoms. severe flu-like symptoms. And you've got less than a 50-50 chance of surviving it if you come down with it. Now, the problem with this disease is if the world starts to go into chaos and we cannot control this disease, the spread of this disease, is it'll start generating chaos in front of it. And that chaos is what the disease needs to feed from in order for it to spread. That's why it's spreading in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The reason why it's spreading there so bad is there's war there, and the war is making chaos. And that's why they can't get it under control. But if our whole world disintegrates into economic chaos and war, and if a world war were to start, we need order. We need structure in order to fight this disease. That's what we need, And we're not going to get it if the world is going crazy. Now, Boris Johnson, he's headed right for this hard Brexit. This alone, a hard Brexit alone, will drag the United Kingdom, it'll drag the United Kingdom into a recession like we haven't seen since the 1930s. Germany is just barely staying above recession. If the United Kingdom goes into a hard recession, which is actually a depression, it'll spread to Germany. Spreads to Germany, the United States will get dragged into it too. Canada will go into it. Australia is already in economic problems. We got all this happening this fall. A few more months down the line, and this disease gets in a city like Goma, this disease could really swell in the amount of people that have it. Now, at a certain point, if this disease continues to spread, and that's the trend is that it's spreading, there's going to come a certain point in its spread where we're going to have to worry about people that might have been in Africa traveling to other places and seeding this disease in other countries. We've got a desperate situation in the world right now, and we've got an awful lot of crises that are ready to pop open, Venezuela has not went away either. Terrible big crisis, humanitarian crisis brewing there in Venezuela. The world's got a lot of problems right now, more than I've ever seen in my lifetime. There's more danger right now. Did I mention Russia and Ukraine? No, I forgot to mention that. Ukraine just seized a ship not long ago. Now, Russia, for the last number of years, has been like in a proxy war. It's the Ukrainian separatists who are fighting in eastern Ukraine. It's been going on since 2014, I believe, if I remember correctly. They got a new Ukrainian president. Now they've seized a Russian ship, and the Russian says there's going to be repercussions from this. The Russians have had 80,000 troops stationed there, right on the Ukrainian border, and a military force, and they've already trained in an exercise called Zapad 18. They've already trained for an invasion against NATO into Ukraine and pushing in toward. They've already trained their soldiers to fight against NATO on this. And Ukraine's pushing their buttons. Seriously, they could take Ukraine in a week, or maybe 2 weeks. But seriously, with the force that they have, the Russians. And it's like Ukraine is not a NATO member country right now. The Russians could just go like this. What are you going to do about it? They're not a NATO country. But once they get on the border of Ukraine, between Ukraine and Poland, and they get on the Romanian border between Romania and Romania is a NATO country, and so is Poland. So if they set one foot on Poland's side of the border or into Romania, it would be on. That would be World War III. And so we got to watch this situation. But you know, World War III could erupt in Taiwan. Chinese have said we ain't taking this, and America's pushing. They're giving arms to Taiwan, and they're sailing through the strait between China and Taiwan, and it's making China awfully upset, awfully mad. I think if I remember correctly, I think there's like 250,000 troops in Taiwan, Taiwanese troops. China's got a lot more troops than that. But I mean, Taiwan would not be a pushover if China wanted to invade Taiwan. China's already said, we will go to war over this. You know? So, tremendous situation in the world. Thank you guys for listening to this show. And I figured I'd do my war news over here and my news about the disease today and get that out of the way. You know, you guys have a great afternoon, and give me a thumbs up and like the video, and tell me if you like the background I got here. Bye bye, guys.